great front pages this morning, didn't he? They were terrific, apart from the Sun's front page, which wasn't quite so friendly. But he'd managed to persuade most of the newspaper editors of the national papers that he was a kind person who cared about a kinder politics. So I'd take those front pages if I were president.
So what's he complaining about? I mean, the Independent on Sunday's been quite fair to him.
We've been terribly fair to him, and I think, you know, for us, it's all about let's judge him by what he does rather than whether he's done his top button up or whether he's sung or whatever else. But at this point, I think from here on in, let's judge him by what he says and what he does. And it was slightly disappointing for me that he made so much play of how much he hates the media in the speech today. I thought that was overplayed.
I do think, though, there's a sense of fair play in Britain, I think. And, you know, lots of people disagree with Jeremy Corbyn, lots of other people agree with him, of course. But he is the leader of the second party in Britain. He got a huge democratic mandate, the biggest of any political party leader in history. And the fact that the vast majority of the media has been quite aggressive towards him,
yeah,
I think most people, even if you disagree with him, think, come on, let him at least say what he thinks, and then give him a fair
let's take
shot.
his joke about wanting asteroid to hit Earth. I mean, he did sign an early day motion, which said exactly that.
It wasn't just about an asteroid, it was about pigeon bombs and wanting to abolish the Earth because of the wretched suffering of pigeons.
Let's say on this.
I don't think anyone actually thought that he was calling on Parliament to vote in favour of asteroids, but it's probably worth reporting. In some sense.
To say that you want an asteroid to end the human race.
People often accuse lefties of being humourless, dry and dour. And
I find it hilarious.
He signed a comical EDM by the late and great Tony Banks, who put this EDM down for testing about how we treated animals and therefore humans are... Maybe an asteroid should wipe them out. It was just a joke. Come on, let's just chill out a bit and maybe get a sense of humour.
Yeah, but I don't think we had front pages saying Corbyn pro-asteroid. I think it was just worth reporting because actually when I found out about the pigeon bombs EDM, I thought it was the funniest thing I'd seen all day.
But can we talk about the substance, though?
No, but I was just going to say, actually, moving on to that, he started the speech today and it just felt like, oh, thank goodness, now we're seeing the man. Now we're seeing, you know, he's self-deprecating, it's funny, he's making a joke about the asteroid thing, he's sort of, you know, we're seeing that relaxed sort of demeanour that was so the opposite of the long walk to silence, which has become infamous already. And sort of the honeymoon period's over, maybe it's the second honeymoon. But on the substance, it started strong. The jokes were lovely, everyone relaxed, it started strong, and then I felt it slightly faded away.
If we're going to talk about the substance, and we've got quite far into the interview without discussing... Well, it's helpful when we talk about politics to talk about actual issues, isn't it? Let's, give it a go. But, you know, self-employed people I think is really interesting. 1 in 7 workers are now self-employed, and I think self-employed people, you meet, you know, people who are self-employed, they like the independence, but they actually have huge insecurity. 1 million self-employed people are having their tax credits cut. They like pensions, they like paid sick leave, paid maternity leave. Very few politicians have actually talked about that issue. And the fact that, you know, and you don't associate the Labour Party with that.
Fair as well, because I mean, it struck me that, yes, he's worried about homeless families and all the rest of it, but so's every politician in the mainstream, just about.
I also don't think that Labour politicians need to spend as much time as perhaps Tory politicians talking about how much they care about the poor and oppressed, because I think we've already got that message. I think voters had already worked that out in May, but there was something that held them back from voting Labour, because something Jeremy Corbyn didn't mention in his speech was that Labour lost the general election in May, and the reason, as far as we can work out, that voters didn't turn to Labour was they didn't trust Labour on the economy. And Jeremy Corbyn also didn't mention the deficit and how he would tackle it in his speech.
He had the word in. He said that Tories were piling up the deficit. Now, what about the plagiarism point? Do you think this is going to be a big issue, that he took some pages of his speech from a speech that's been widely circulated around the Labour leaders?
I think that... You know, I mean, it's interesting in the last sort of 10 days, you know, the sort of, his narrative has changed, that now that he's got a sort of strong press team behind him, and what he's trying to do is get a message out beyond the sort of the hardcore of people who voted for him. And you could see quite a lot in the speech, the sort of the jokes and some of those, you know, it's not down to the leader. It's only his wisdom.
It was on this speech where Neil Kinnock fell over, you know, when he became Labour leader, and I just wonder whether it's going to be associated with him that he introduced new politics and he ended up using some very stale
one of our writers spotted that he had copied these chunks from the speech that was suggested to Ed Miliband. And the writer, Richard Heller, of this suggested speech was totally fine with Corbyn doing this. So it wasn't as though it was sort of sneakily copied. But what I think it does suggest is that Corbyn is more like a machine politician than he maybe claims, in that he has a speechwriting team which there's no problem with having a speechwriting team, but if you present yourself as sort of unspun, your own man, which is something Ed Miliband used to present himself as well, to find out that you're giving a speech that was written for another man is a little bit confusing.
And I have to say, so, look, you're a serious journalist, and I like you very much. I'm very fond of what you do. Accusing someone of plagiarism is a very serious accusation. It's a career-destroying accusation. Plagiarism is taking someone's work against their knowledge and passing it off as your own.
Yeah.
That's obviously not what happened, is it? This person submitted voluntarily.
Well, he did pass it off as his own.
Well, no, but that's speechwriting, isn't it? I mean, you could accuse any politician of plagiarism then because they have a team of speechwriters to assemble their speech.
So you don't think it matters?
No, what you said, no, it's not about whether it matters or not.
Okay.
For me, no, Adam, I'm not going to let you off the hook on this. We've got to take this seriously. Every politician...
I said the plagiarism issue. I didn't say it was plagiarism.
You said it was a plagiarism issue.
Version of what happened. We're going to have to end it there, I'm afraid.
It's very unfair, Adam.
You know it.